Whether you're ordering wings for the game, whipping up a 7-layer dip, or ordering pizza, there's something about football that makes you want to eat. And this football season, Uber Eats has the best deals on game day food. No matter what you're craving, from 2-for-1 pizza to buy one, get one wings, Uber Eats will be dropping new deals each week, all season long. Uber Eats, official on-demand delivery partner of the NFL. Order now. Terms and conditions apply. See app for details.
This episode is brought to you by Intuit TurboTax. Didn't file with TurboTax last year? That's in the past. Now, Taxes is getting the TurboTax app and filing your own taxes for free if you didn't file with them last year. File by February 18th. All tax forms, all 100% free. Now, this is Taxes. Intuit TurboTax. New filers and filers who didn't use TurboTax last year only must start and file your own taxes in-app by February 18th. Excludes TurboTax Live. Full terms at TurboTax.com.
This podcast is part of E2C Network, where we share the whole Auburn experience. David Housel described it best. We are living the whole of the Auburn experience. You can quantify it, you can qualify it through a variety of methods, times, people, places, and things. But at its heart and at its core, the Auburn experience to us is all about Auburn sports, Auburn culture, and Auburn family stuff. An easier way to say it, if it's orange and blue, it's what we do. So we thank you for joining us and what we're going to do in episode 112 of the Auburn Experience podcast. I'm your host, Kyle Loomis, alongside me as always, and a little bit coming back from being under the weather, maybe, my good friend and yours, Austin Scott, back as co-host. How you doing, buddy?
I'm good. Thanks for having me. War Eagle to everybody. Yeah, it's flu season, right? And it's made its way through Auburn fast and hard. So it has gotten me, but I'm coming out of it, but it is definitely here. So I always get a flu shot. With my dad being a physician, it's just kind of been always something we do. It's very easy, and that's just kind of, I know that some people believe in it, some people don't, but I just, for the life of me, cannot remember if I got it or not this year. But I know I got the flu, so I've got the normal immunity now. So.
You're double, well, whatever, you're double inoculized or whatever the word is. Probably just butchered that word. Either way, I'll tell you this much, since you started.
We pushed all that talk out of our brains.
Yeah, I'll just tell you this much. I am deathly afraid of all needles. And so if I can avoid a shot, I will. And I know that's probably not a good approach in some things, but listen, I literally, my arm is going numb right now just talking about it. That's like it's a defense mechanism. And so when I go get my blood drawn, for your doctor's appointment that you're supposed to do every year, do I do it? That's up for debate. I literally go into the phlebotomist or whatever the term is. And I just start going to my happy place, which is Jordan-Hare.
That's right.
Just go there, just the band's cheering, all that stuff. It's what gets me through. I still might cry a little bit, but that's only because I'm thinking about Jordan-Hare and not because of the shot.
Right.
All things being considered. Well, we appreciate Austin being here while he and his family and everybody, sounds like a lot of people in Auburn are having the flu run through their house. But on a good note, this week, Auburn celebrated its 169th birthday. She never looked so good. 169 never looked so good on a person than it did Auburn. I know you and I do this every year now, but we got to celebrate the thing that is the reason we're here, pretty much.
Yeah, without Auburn, we would not exist. I think that's safe to say. So 169 years. I'll be honest, that got me thinking toward 175. Honestly, that's just the next benchmark. That's not that far away. So it'll be really interesting to see all the fun that's planned there in coming up. But 169 years, she never looked so good. Kyle and I are planning our 175th birthday episode now, so just be ready for that.
Are we? I missed those meetings, but that's sad that the main co-host behind this and the producer hasn't done any planning, but yet the other co-host has. Clearly, I need to be more on the ball, but it doesn't matter because we are happy to have another year with our beloved Auburn University, and certainly the Auburn experience goes beyond that. But it is one of those big things that you always go back to, and the reason why we're pretty much all here discussing what we're discussing. So happy birthday to Auburn University once again. We got to roll through tons in Auburn potpourri, but we wanted to start off with that tonight. We'll go ahead and tackle this right off at the start because it's breaking news in the sense that it occurred about an hour or so before we decided to go live here. And I want to start off by saying, if you missed our segment last week talking about the student basketball, the lineup, the camp out, the stampede, you need to go back and listen to our discussion about that. There was a lot of things I think that needed to be addressed even outside of updates and stuff, but please do go check that out if you haven't in the last episode. I think it's the very last thing we discussed. But Austin, right before we went live about an hour ago, we got the news that they officially released updated guidelines, rules, regulations for what's going to happen with Jungle Village, not just in weekend games where there's a propensity to camp out or something like this, but weekday games as well. So I think you've got some type of summary. It's a little bit complicated. We obviously encourage you to go look up the tweet, the social media post from Auburn to get the full layout, everything, especially if you're a student. But if you want to give us the rundown, certainly do that.
Yeah, it really impressive stuff by the administration. We said you're gonna have to get something figured out quickly. They had 2 road games this week to thankfully kind of work through some things, see what their first kind of jab at this would be. It looks like there's going to be 2 options. Basically, they'll decide what kind of game it's going to be based on if it is warranted a camp out or warranted as just a kind of a normal lineup game. So those are option A and option B. So for the standard queuing game or just the normal line game, there'll be 4 organized lines or quads that kind of determine based on how early you get there. We'll basically assign you to an area. So the first 2, it looks like you're going to probably make it in the lower area if you're a student, and the rest it's going to be depending on how capacity looks down there. If you're standing room only, that kind of thing. So it definitely spreads the love out in terms of not keeping everybody so focused in one area where there could be issues. And then for camping, camping game, which it looks like next weekend's Florida game, they're already determining that's going to be a camping game. It looks like students are going to want to have to use tents that they put forth and have approved for certain safety measures and guidelines that they need to register in that same kind of area. So 4 zones. They're going to do wristbands for each of these games again to help them kind of monitor the crowding. But I think it's a really good idea. It looks like a really good move by Auburn for me to find a way to keep these long lines and the campouts that have fostered all this energy and environment and the good vibes we talked about last week, but make it safer for everyone. It was just a matter of the time before something like this had to happen. And that's a good thing when you think about that. This is all because Auburn basketball has become something so many people want to be a part of. So right. I think it's good. It looks very similar to what other big programs do. I even saw, you have to have, if you're camping, you have to have 50% of your party in the tent at all times. That is, I remember seeing that's what Duke does. That is a big and common thing. So I think that it's safe to say whoever came up with this, we give the athletic department a lot of credit on our show anyway. Whoever came up with this, I think they did their research extensively, decided what was best for Auburn in the atmosphere, but also safety. So really good to see. Looking forward to seeing how this works this week.
Hey, don't tell Duke that we took something else from them and modeled it after them. We already did that with Neville. Now we're doing it with their student line things. Listen, they don't need anything else right now to use against us because they're so mad they have to sit behind us at number 2. I know you beat us, that's fine, but you have more losses. Handle it anyway. It's just a quick reminder for the Duke trolls that continue to come into our content and many other Auburn content spaces out there. I agree with you. I think this was the best they probably could have done to maintain the energy, as you said, to foster it, but also address the safety concerns that happened. Once again, folks, a lot of it was outside of their control. Once again, folks, you don't need to overreact. Once again, folks, you need to trust that there are people that are going to respond, do the right thing. And once again, my trust that I have in them, you and many others, has been fulfilled, I feel like. Now, is this perfect? Probably not. Will there have to be changes? Probably so. But I think this is a step in the right direction without damaging the fostering of that energy. I think there will be some of that natural just kind of think that built where, okay, it's just starting. Nobody knows when it is. And there's still going to be that there, but that will be lost a little bit with more and more structure. But unfortunately, this does have to happen given what happened last time. So please go read the article, especially if you're a student. Understand that they're doing everything they can to make the student experience better. And certainly we're going to look forward to see how this works. I don't know if I'll be able to come document the first one, but certainly it would be interesting to do so if we're able to. We'll see what happens with that. Let's get into a couple of different things. I want to talk about a guy from Auburn, but I'm not just talking about the university. I'm talking about the high school, because Auburn, to start off last week, got a commitment, not for the 2026 class. Well, let's not forget, we're still technically in the football 2025 cycle. This one is for that class, maybe a final edition. Running back Omar Mabson of the Auburn Tigers, the high school, has reclassified from a junior to a senior and will join the 2025 class a little early. That was quite a surprise. I think it's very intriguing for the room, but I know this probably makes you happy as a resident of Auburn to see one of your own continue to stay with Auburn.
Yeah, pretty cool to see Omar decide to stay in town and stay local and stay an Auburn Tiger. Omar's friends with a lot of the kids I'm around each day at work. And they have spoken highly of him, said that he's very excited. So really cool to see. Always cool to see an Auburn High kid want to stay home. That is a successful program that has a lot of talent. And so always cool to see. And definitely an area where I think Auburn was looking to add someone, not just because he's from Auburn High, because they need another running back. So really cool to see. I guess this Wednesday is the first Wednesday in February. That's when we used to all
whenever it is.
Well, this episode used to be looking forward to that, right? And now it's just an afterthought. So signing day is here again, but cool to see. And I'm sure Auburn will have plenty for Omar on Wednesday.
Right. And here's the funny thing about this. There is somebody for us to wait and see if he actually signs, but I don't know that he's going to change his mind anytime soon. Now, there was a lot of interest building towards him from other programs, prominent programs, and might have gotten a little bit tricky had he stayed classified as a junior and had to go through that full cycle. So I wonder if it's a little bit of creative thinking ahead of the schedule for Auburn for him to go ahead and get him in, keep him a part of this room, kind of secure that for the future. I'm not sitting here saying that Omar is going to be the next best thing, but I'm sure going to root for him to be that. I just love the fact that a local, right in your backyard kid is still going to be part of Auburn. And of course, at the much beloved running back position, you're playing running back, even in just whether you play significantly or not at Auburn, the same team as Bo Jackson, as Carnell Williams. That is a really cool thing. So congrats to Omar, and we welcome you into the 2025 class. Let's switch gears to the professional ranks and to basketball. We're talking about somebody that we've had an opportunity to talk about a lot lately, whether it's being in the WNBA finals or some milestone, having her number retired. We're talking about, once again, DeWanna Bonner, who's probably, let's be honest, Austin, in the latter part of her career in the WNBA. Certainly. I don't think there's anything wrong with saying that. She is very well seasoned. She is very well accomplished. But the news came, and I missed this. You had to bring it up to me, that DeWanna Bonner is going to go be with the Indiana Fever, now leaving the Connecticut Sun. So why is that significant? Well, there's a certain name out there. Austin, who is it?
Caitlin Clark.
Caitlin Clark caught everybody's attention last year and, in college as well. So they will be on the same team together with many other big names as well. But that's an interesting thing, a 1-year contract for DeWanna Bonner to be with the Indiana Fever and see how this goes. See if she can bring her winning ways even more so to where there's a lot of talent already. Yeah,
really cool to see. I believe DeWanna is still the 5th all-time leading scorer in WNBA history. We covered that when that happened. And she's only ever played for Phoenix and Connecticut. So for her to make a move, I think it's just a 1-year deal, one of those veteran year deals. But she's joining a really fun team, a really startup fun team that obviously has a lot of attention around the country with Caitlin Clark on it and some other young studs. So it looks like DeWanna is going to be the veteran face and atmosphere or culture in the locker room to kind of show the young guns how to do it and how to win, which is very cool. So I'm sure she'll have plenty of opportunities playing with someone like Caitlin Clark to be able to score more and maybe move up the list some more on the all-time scoring list, but will certainly be an addition to that team. So really cool. That'll be something for us to be able to follow as she kind of, like you said, heads to the back half of her career here. But man, that's a fun team to be a part of if it's your last ride.
Listen, I love this because I love it when more eyes get on our people. I don't care if it's in the beginning of their career, towards the end of it, whenever. And you know that Caitlin Clark obviously draws eyes, attention, in whatever format and for whatever reason, as the superstar that she is. And so you combine that with an opportunity to see one of the best Auburn women's basketball, the modern era products, more frequently, maybe on a team that's going to continue to improve. She's going to teach them how to win at the next level. I love that. So I'm happy for Dawana, and I'm happy that we get to talk about her for at least another year. We'll see how much longer it continues. Yeah. But congrats to her. And we'll see how one of the best in Auburn women's basketball finishes out her career, maybe, whether it's another year or so. Final thing that we want to discuss in potpourri, and I know we are a little bit over on our time, but we have to get this in. We're going to do a mini preview of Auburn softball. When I say mini, probably we could spend a lot of time talking about this, but we're going to try to smash this in here. So I'm going to give you guys some details real quick. We'll give you some quick overarching thoughts about it and maybe offer you some predictions at the end of it. So season starts this week. This is February 2nd. Happy Groundhog Day to all of you that are reliving it over and over and over and over and over again.
Happy Groundhog Day to all you who are living it over and over and over again.
Yes, thank you for running with the joke there. Mini softball preview here. We have, if I did my math correctly, 55 games starting this weekend, 31 non-conference games, which include the early part of the season and then in between the middle of the week games like you see in baseball. 24 SEC games, which is 8 series total. So, lot to look forward to there, and it's the beginning of the Malveaux era. Times the Maldo. I want to say Maldo and like combined two, but that was a really bad joke, and I'm going to not do that once. Nah. I'm getting no sympathy from Austin. He's like, Look, dude, I don't even feel that well. I'm not giving you any sympathy tonight. Your quick thoughts, just opening up about softball starting and anything that's on your mind. We're getting into that.
Lots of new faces, lots of new on the diamond and in the dugout. Lots of excitement. I think a lot of Auburn people are probably still wondering, how's this going to work? And I think that's fair because it's different. It's not new though. Like as we've talked about when they were hired, this has happened before. This is not a crazy brand new thing Auburn's just going to throw out there and see if it works. It's something that's happened before and something that's just different at Auburn, but will be very cool to see and see how they go about things. They're both very professional, seasoned veterans and have brought in some good talent so far that we'll just have to see how they translate to SEC play, but really exciting times.
Yeah, it is exciting when you get to watch a new era begin because there is the unknown excitement of it. There's the hope that you're going to take that next step. And, obviously I ask for everybody to be patient, because you never know what happens in a transition period. Sometimes you have a 2013 season where inexplicably you make it to the national title. Sometimes it takes a couple of years to get things going no matter the sport. So we'll see how this shakes out. But just for perspective, I'll give you who we're playing in the SEC, the 8 series that we have. And I'm going to say this by telling you how the SEC coaches voted the finish would be for preseason for SEC play. Texas, Florida, Oklahoma, Tennessee, Texas A&M, LSU, Arkansas, Georgia, Missouri, Alabama, Kentucky, Mississippi State, Auburn at 13, Ole Miss and South Carolina. There's 16 SEC teams, but one of them, Vanderbilt, doesn't have a softball team. So Auburn is third to last on that list. The people that they will be playing is Texas and Florida, 1 and 2 in that finishing list. Tennessee and Texas A&M, 3 and 4 on that finishing list. And then you have Georgia right in the middle, Kentucky and Mississippi State, which are right above Auburn, and then South Carolina at the bottom. So you look at that top half, just add Oklahoma there, and there's no way you get out of this thing alive. I mean, just
correct.
Thank goodness we don't have to face Oklahoma in the season this year. I do hate that we don't get to see Alabama. Obviously, this does raise the questions of how successful the first year that's going to be just competing in softball in the SEC. Any quick thoughts on that?
I think the Malveaux are coming from Tennessee, where they had a lot of success, but know what the SEC is like. So I don't think that they're unaware of what it's going to be like to compete in such a deep league. But, however, I think they recognize that and what they're trying to build will take time. So it's definitely a hard draw your first year. Have the top 4 or 4 out of 5?
4 out of 5.
4 out of 5. Oklahoma's the one.
Number 3 is Oklahoma, and thankfully we don't have to see them in the regular season.
Which is somehow shocking to me still. Even Oklahoma is at number 3. Don't think they're not using that as some bulletin board material.
Oh,
but to have 4 of the top 5 on your schedule is already hard. That's half your SEC schedule. So they're aware, but I think they'll hope they can make some progress, show some of the young youth of their program that they have a foundation set, and you build on that as you keep going.
Certainly do. Last year's record in the final year of Mickey Dean, which, by the way, folks, I think if you go back and look at his overall record, it really wasn't as bad as a lot of people act like it was. I think a little bit more respect needs to be put on his 7 years here. But last year, 29, 21-1, please no ties this year, was the final record. So you had 55 games total, 31 in non-conference, 24 in SEC games. I know I'm putting you on the spot to do math, Austin, but you can maybe bounce off of what I'm saying. I'm saying we go 22-9 in non-conference, and I'm saying we go 14-10 in SEC play, which results in a 36-19 year, which is a pretty decent increase off of what we did last year. A decent increase, not a big one. Any thoughts on a record you'd like to throw out there and see if we end up being right or wrong?
Yeah. What's the total amount of games again? I'm sorry.
55 games. So I said 36-19.
Yeah, I'm going to go a little bit lower. That SEC slate just scares me a little bit. And I'm not going to shy away from it. But in the first year with how much of a gauntlet in the SEC sport is, we tell you that all the time, but especially SEC softball. So I think they probably reached 30 wins just because of the way the non-con is set up. I think they've got a lot of opportunities there to be able to kind of put together some wins. I like the schedule they've created for themselves in that first year to kind of go into it. But I think that the SEC slate will probably be either right at 500 or a little under. So I'll say 30, and what would that be? 20.
Math is why are you asking me to do math on the fly? I guess I asked you.
Yeah. Did you say 54 games?
55 games.
So 30 and 25. Yeah, I'll stick right there at 30 and 25.
There you go. We both have us reaching 30. We'll see who ends up being right on that.
I'll say 500 in SEC.
Listen, if they can sweep 2 of the bottom of the SEC,
yeah, that's big.
They can do that and then win the rest of the ones that they're right there with, and then just take a game from each of the top ones up there. That gets you to if I did my math correctly, a 14 win SEC year. If you go up above 500 in the SEC in your first year with the Malvos, I'm on board for that right there. That gets you in the tournament, and we're good. We're golden at that point. So the season begins. We're looking forward to it, and certainly we'll be updating you guys on the Auburn experience, how they're doing throughout the season. Let's move into our first major topic this evening. And certainly you all know that we're still in the midst of basketball season. So of course we're going to spend a good portion of our time updating you on what's going on with the team. Not like you need us to update you. You know, it's only the best team in all of college basketball and still continues to be the best team in college basketball. After a week of spending their life on Murderers Row in the SEC. I don't care what team it is. If you go on the road in the SEC, you are susceptible. I don't care how good you are, how good this Auburn team is. You take every team seriously. Some of y'all are still not understanding that. Some of y'all tried to ride off LSU and things were a little bit scary to start off the game. But just in summary, at LSU, 87-74, decent enough margin of victory there. And then at Ole Miss, which was probably the biggest and most excitement around going there to play them, 92-82. Auburn wins that one as well. So 2-0 on the week, maintain their number 1 spot, and it's a great, another great week to be an Auburn basketball Tiger. So let's start off with LSU, Austin, 87-74. Janai returns to the starting lineup officially after he already played basically as a starter in his first game back versus Tennessee from his injury. What did you think about his performance, the performance of the team versus LSU?
Yeah, unscathed again, but definitely Janai being back. I think we're all in agreement. He's probably still not 100%. I think his quote after games has been, "I was good enough to play," which is a little bit telling if you want to be nitpicky on it. I think he's still favoring it a little bit. How could you not? Ankles, as we've talked about, are no joke, especially in the game of basketball, especially when he depends on his as much as he does. So it's obvious. I think it still shows even more so he's probably the best player in college basketball when you look at what he's doing on a bum ankle. So I'm not surprised. I'm still incredibly impressed by Janai Broome and how he can lead this team, not at 100%. I think a theme from this week's games, when you look at it, started at LSU, but even at Ole Miss, is the turnovers and some sloppy passing, and that kind of stuff can get you beat in the road, especially in the SEC, on the road in the SEC. But when you look at how deep this team is, and those are the kind of things they're still even able to overcome, it's impressive. Don't think that it's not going to get fixed, because Bruce Pearl would love nothing more than to see weaknesses on film in order to keep this team focused and fresh. So I do think it'll be addressed, but the entire top to bottom depth of this team is what's being able to keep them from being susceptible to things like that, giving them losses. But man, I mean, just each night I'm nervous because I'm an Auburn fan, and I'm nervous because I want us to continue to do well, but they just continue to shine and blow out my expectations.
Absolutely. And as they continue to win, they continue to shut down any narrative out there that says they're not deserving of that number one. The facts are just in their corner, that the competition that they're playing, but also how they're beating the competition on the road without Janai, with Janai showing that he is one of the best, if not the best candidate for National Player of the Year, with how he's performing on a not 100% ankle right now. So you talked about LSU a little bit. That one was the more secure win in terms of how Auburn was more in control at the end of the game. Ole Miss, you could also make the case that Auburn got control as we got closer to the end of the game, but certainly it was quite interesting because Ole Miss and Auburn have had quite the history in basketball. It's very much in Auburn's favor lately under Bruce Pearl, but it has always been close. It has always been, shall we say, fiery. Marshall Henderson names, when you had to face coaches like in the past, Andy Kennedy, Kermit Davis. And so you know what you're going to get, whether you play them. You would play them twice every year. And they obviously had us on their, we'll call it their bulletin board, because apparently there's a rumor out there that the students were given permission to storm the court if they beat number one. And what do you think about that? Obviously we win 92 to 82, but any thoughts on Ole Miss continuing the antics with us?
I'm not surprised. I think Ole Miss wants to beat us so bad. And that's, I'm sick. I've said be, not beat. I think that's both, but I think they want to be us so bad.
It was a slip that was not intended, but it was appropriate.
It's just, I don't think that Ole Miss I think they have everything they would like to be. They built a brand new stadium that is supposed to be similar to ours, but bigger. They continue to make sure that we know that we wanted Lane Kiffin and that they have Chris Beard. And I just don't, I don't subscribe to Ole Miss. I'm a hater against Ole Miss. I'll just say it right here. I do not like them. And so to get our 7th straight win over them is totally fine by me. They camped out. They were very proud to say they camped out against Auburn. That's fine. Make sure we all note that they camped out, not to see Kentucky, to see Auburn. And
not to see Bronny James, but
to see Bronny James, Yahoo. I just think that Yahoo Sports, not Bronny James. He might be a Yahoo. I don't know him. So I think that Sick Austin is on another level.
Yeah.
I think that I'm not surprised that they were willing to do that. I think that they want so badly to have a moment like that, and for that moment to be against Auburn. They'll have to try again next year, though. But we'll see. I'm glad we get to play them again. I do think that Ole Miss is always a challenge for Auburn, and that one we're able to do well against, but that is one we need.
Yep.
Kyle, did you happen to see the student section T-shirts?
I did not get a good look at them, but what are you wanting?
It said like roundabouts, basketball, chicken on a stick, Ole Miss. Like that's just the word, and I'm just like, what? Like, don't do yourself. You're in Mississippi already. Like, don't do yourself any disfavors by bragging about your chicken on a stick.
Can we ask you just to figure out what your mascot is first?
Maybe it's chicken on a stick this year. The way I translate who their mascot is, it's kind of like Lunar New Year. whatever it says on the calendar is what they're choosing to be this year. Like, I think Happy New Year, Lunar New Year is the snake this year. Well, at Ole Miss, it's chicken on a stick.
Well, yeah, I guess so. Or snake would be appropriate to Lane Kiffin. Oh, shots fired. Sorry.
Here we go.
That. Here we go.
I was hoping Morgan Freeman would be there again because he and Janai kind of had that
would have been funny.
Friendly back and forth. I was hoping to
funny.
see him again. I don't think he was there, but regardless, Auburn did what they should have done against Ole Miss. I think it was very cool for someone to ask Bruce post-game, does he see similarities in what Bruce built at Auburn as kind of getting the student fan base engaged and that kind of thing as what's happening at Ole Miss? And Bruce was very complimentary of Chris Beard and what they're doing. And I think that's fair to say, but you're not there yet. So nice try and good luck next year on getting that court storming.
It's court storming at your place. Certainly you can, make magic happen at Neville. That's a very difficult thing to do. But for now, we'll hold that over your heads as we continue to do, as you continue to emulate the best in the land, that be the #1 Auburn Tigers. A topic that I want to kind of round out with here is a narrative I've seen, not just online, stuff that I've actually engaged with, whether it's here of YouTube or TikTok live streams and stuff. And there's this narrative out there that Auburn is underperforming / playing down to their opponents as of late, meaning in conference play, because that's what's as of late. And I disagree with this vehemently. So I think people are misinterpreting what they're seeing as, and listen, you talked about it. There's been some maybe sloppy play at times.
Yeah.
And things like that could be better. But you also have to give credit to your opponent. And folks, this isn't just me trying to build the narrative that Auburn is playing in the best conference because it helps us build us up even more. This is just the reality. These are the facts. These are the stats. There's a reason there were at 1.13 teams predicted to make the tournament this year. The SEC is tough. So what I think that we are seeing, Austin, what people are misinterpreting is Auburn has now moved into what is ironically the toughest part of their schedule, given what they had to play in non-conference play. And it has gotten more difficult. Turnovers happen more because you're playing against better defenses, more athletic teams. NIL programs are just rampant in the SEC and bringing in talented players. That is my interpretation. And I understand that everybody's entitled to their own opinion. I just don't agree with the narrative that Auburn's underperforming / playing down to their opponents. What say you?
Yeah, I don't either. I think if you want to use the Ole Miss example as one microcosm of it, you're favored by 6 and you went on the road and won by 10 and put up 90-something. I just don't subscribe to that theory that's playing down to an opponent, especially a top 25 team at home. But I think also it's something, and we've heard this a lot throughout this conference season because the SEC has been so good, is that the league has taken a step. This is not the SEC of 10, 15 years ago. If Auburn being #1 in the country is not the most evident example of that, I don't know what to tell you. But this is not the league that it was, where it didn't care about basketball. When football season was over, it was on to signing day and it was on to spring training and all those things. This league has taken and invested a lot of resources and money into coaches and facilities and fan engagement to make it better. So the competition truly is better. This is a team in Missouri who went 0-18 in conference play this year, and I think is 7-2 now. Mm-hmm. Auburn already beat them quite handedly. An LSU team who's struggling, but I think they're at 500 in the SEC now and has already had some big wins of their own. Oklahoma goes into Starkville and beats Mississippi State, who took Alabama to the wire earlier this week, and drubs them by 20 or 30. I just don't think people are quite understanding even still how good this conference is. Auburn played the hardest non-conference anybody could ever play in November and December. No one's questioning that. But now that it's in conference play, the gig's not up. It's still the same, and it's still just as hard, if not harder. So the fact that there's going to be stumbles, and like Kyle and I have warned you, and it hasn't happened yet, there will be losses. Those things are going to happen when you just have different conference or different competition that is so steadily and increasingly better each and every week. So I don't subscribe to their playing down. I think they're taking every opponent seriously, and so far they've handled it really well.
Yeah, and I think as I kind of opened up talking about, there's an element of their respect for your opponents too. I think when you say they're under playing down, you're assuming that they're very much not even in your camp of competition. That is not the case.
No.
I respect the heck out of the entire SEC. Certainly we can talk about to what degree. When Tennessee rolls into town, you're going to be like, this is the epic matchup as it ended up being.
Sure.
If LSU, that one was just kind of okay, we need to take them seriously and stuff like that. But no, in no way is Auburn, as of the ending of this week, just got done playing Ole Miss, is not underperforming, not playing down. Let's retune that a little bit and rethink about the way we're having that conversation, is my opinion, but you all are entitled to yours out there. Just keep that in mind. Let's move into our second big topic this evening. And I think we're going to spend a lot of time on this one. So there was actually something in basketball I was wanting to tackle. We'll do it another day because we could debate that one forever too. This next major topic is about renovations. And this was another conversation piece on social media, on, I'm sure, message boards and all the great conversations that happen on those places from time to time. But I've recognized that there is a lot of misinformation and or confusion about what's going on with renovations to not just football, but for the future for basketball as well. So we're going to spend a little bit of time giving you this information, direct quotes and things like that, and talk about it a little bit. So let's start with Jordan-Hare and the renovations that are currently ongoing and are on the way potentially. And keep in mind, everything that we're discussing in this is not, some of this is not official. There is a board of trustees meeting, I believe this week, Austin.
Thursday, maybe.
Thursday. The materials, the agenda were put out there, which is why there was a lot of conversation about this. So we know that the North End Zone video board has been under construction for some time now. Lots of content about that. You can even find some updates from us if you want to see some recent videos and such. Check those out on YouTube, of course. But that is the big thing, ready to go for the 2025 season. Do you suspect in any way that it's not on schedule? Just as a quick side note.
I don't think so. I actually thought about that when we put out our pictures on this week on E2C Network. I don't think so. It just seems like something, it's not minor. I shouldn't downplay it, but I do think that it's one of those things that maybe there could be a hiccup, but I think they've given themselves enough time to kind of embrace for all those possible hiccups. I don't know, like a 5-day snow week.
Yeah, but they got some pretty awesome shots from the stadium and from that, I'm sure, from that crane because of that being up there. So you kind of like, even if it, got
it's a wash.
It's a wash. Listen, we got some pretty awesome content. I say the university and athletics department from that. So certainly we expect that to be ready for the start of the 2025 season. But as continues to be misunderstood, folks, because you always see these comments, or they should have expanded, they should have added more seating. Folks, please.
I'm having deja vu. It's Groundhog Day.
Are you twitching right now?
Yeah.
Please do yourself a favor. Before you type something in comments, before you make your big grand statement, go read the articles and actually don't just read for what you're looking for or whatever. Like, take the time to thoroughly read, because you will get usually all the information. I'm talking about direct from the Auburn University. There are great reporters out there that put information out too, but I'm talking about go straight to the source. You will have seen that this was always the plan. I'm going to read that future stuff was coming. I'm going to read a blurb from it right now, and that how they alluded to future projects after the video board. Quote, "This project marks the first step toward modernizing the north end zone of Jordan-Hare. The video board and supporting structure have been intentionally designed to stand alone behind the current seating bowl, enabling future north end zone improvement opportunities to utilize the concrete frame as part of future projects." So there's your quote, folks. It was always part of the plan. This was the first steps. For those of you that are screaming about expansion, there's other details that we need to discuss there. If that's time for that, it's coming. It's literally said right there. So that brings us to this week. And actually before that, back in September, a multi-use end zone facility utilizing that frame that they just talked about was announced as it was in initial approval processes. The quote from there, the addition will combine premium seating, concessions, stadium support facilities, along with versatile conference event spaces, retail venues, student activity spaces, meeting rooms, as well as future shell space, meaning extra space to do some stuff with. So folks, you got this back in September. expansion is coming. More of this is coming. So now this brings us to this week, Austin, where in the agenda meeting notes, you saw what will be a vote to approve who is going to be working on that project, the multi-use end zone facility. And that is apparently HOK Architects of Kansas City, Missouri, as well as Robbins and Morton of Birmingham. So have I done a good job painting where we're at? If I left anything out in your mind?
Yeah, no, I think you've painted it perfectly. This has always been a step that can help Jordan-Hare Stadium improve. No one's doubting, or no one's saying that Jordan-Hare Stadium does not need to or cannot expand seating. I think that there has to be certain measures that get done first before they can do that, and this is one of those that makes sure that they're covering their bases. I do not like when things are rushed into something, or when something's done and then you got to backtrack. I think the athletic department's doing a good job making sure they're going about this methodically, cost effectively, and doing
revenue generating.
Correct. Revenue generating with concessions and premium spaces and all that stuff. All that brings in more money, which seems to be at a premium these days in college athletics. So really cool to see. It will be cool to see the final kind of structure and what it looks like. And I think even then, after I say this wishful thinking probably, but even when the final structure is done, I think there will be a way for us to see where other pieces can go in. I think that it won't look like Legos. Like there'll be, there's a hole there where they'll just put on another thing. But I think that it'll be able to see maybe what the grand plan is hopefully looking like once we see this first part done.
I've got a vision in my head. I just got to share. This is such a related tangent, but for some reason my algorithm, I'm getting a lot of videos. You remember like growing up, Power Rangers, the Zords that combined together? When you said pieces like Legos that would fall, I'm thinking of, form the Jordan-Hare Megazord or whatever it was called.
Yeah.
And then the pieces come down.
They just come down. Yeah.
The expansion.
If only it was that easy, this would be great.
This would be great. Nobody would have to complain in the comment sections ever again that, oh my gosh, I got to have expansion. Okay. Anyway, this multi-use facility isn't specifically saying that the general public is getting an expansion seat. It does say premium seating. We get you. We hear that. Folks, there is a step. There is a reason that we're doing things this way. You can't just simply say, expand it. It's done. First of all, I said we were going to get into it, but there's a reason things happen this way. But hopefully that clarifies, because I had some personal requests from friends and stuff to explain it a little bit. And we're probably leaving some parts out of this, to be honest with you, but I feel like we've given you at least some direct quotes. You could do your own research as well, but a picture of where we're heading. And obviously this vote that's upcoming for the multi-use facility. Let's take what we just did here, using our logic and all this stuff. And again, emphasizing that Auburn fans need to go and read the articles specifically. And you can, by the way, if you're ever wanting to see the Board of Trustees agenda and what they're voting on, what they're discussing, it's available to the public. So take that opportunity if you're really interested in this type of stuff. But we're talking about potential to be voted on improvements for Neville Arena. Now, this one's got a bit of a loopy timeline. How long have we been talking about this, Austin, for a while? It feels like a while.
Feels like 5 years. I think it's in reality like 3, but
yeah, it's been a minute. It's been certainly a minute, dating back to February of 2022. Do you remember the certain really big event? I guess I shouldn't say event, thing that happened that got secured around that time. Do you remember what was happening?
It got secured in February 2022.
Someone got secured for lifetime, quote unquote.
Oh, yeah. Head coach Bruce Pearl is back.
Yes, Bruce Pearl had his contract extended by former AD Alan Green. Again, folks, I know some people would say maybe it wasn't the best tenure, but you do need to thank him for that. So I'm going to continue to give him the props for that, for signing to a quote unquote lifetime contract, or at least to a 2030, I think, is when they signed it to. That would effectively probably bring him to the end of his career, which he said he wanted to be at all along. So there was a lot of speculation, maybe even confirmation at the time, that Coach Pearl said as part of the agreement there was in, I guess, not writing maybe, but whatever, we're going to invest in these spaces for you guys for even more. And there was a lot of talk about what that was going to be, maybe something for the students. We've already covered that, how that's been even in today. But Obviously, this has been something that's been flirting around, and I feel like it's been a long time that we've been discussing, is something going to happen? And the idea was expansion of a practice gym or an addition of a practice gym. And let me just start off with this before we get into where we're at now. Do you actually believe that there was room, Austin, to expand into a practice gym somewhere? Have you looked at the map at all?
Based on the renderings I saw, it looked like things were going to probably expand toward the rec center. And I don't think that road would have been as usable as it is now, based on extending where the offices and the current practice gyms are out into the road, and kind of making enough room there. I don't have an opinion on if that road's usable or not, but it's certainly dealing with the confines that you're in, having to certainly make some things work in order for that to happen.
I believe it would have been very squished. And you might not have had as big of a practice gym. Maybe you have the main one that has got several courts in it, and just have an extension of another one that's smaller. And that could have probably worked. I was even trying to get creative with, can they go up? Like, is there a practice floor on top of a practice floor, and then create space for, offices and stuff around it? But either way, it obviously became quite the challenge, because they've approved the investigation of this to figure out what could be done, and it's taken quite some time. But here's the other thing, folks. About this time, what else happened? 3 letters. NIL came along. And in fact, Bruce Pearl, I think it was that upcoming season. Am I right on that, Austin? That where he addressed this
on pausing things, kind of.
Yes,
I want to say it was. Yeah, I don't know if it was the year after or that coming year, but it was not super long after that.
Yes. So Bruce addressed that he wanted to switch the focus financially from focusing on improvements for that to NIL, and thankfully that's the case, folks. One Janai Broom may not be here had it not been for that focus on that. Let's just call it like it is, because he's been here for 3 years now. So that would have been
a sizable commitment.
Sizable commitment. I'm not saying Janai was the only reason we made that. There are other players, and this goes the same for women's basketball, for all the other stuff. But let's be thankful. So for those of you that frustrated wanted to see something like this, even Bruce said, pause, handle this first, and it gives you more time to really assess what we need to do. So Board of Trustees meeting, obviously, like we talked about with football, if you haven't listened to that, if you're watching a replay or a segment of this, make sure you go and watch that discussion too. They put out their meeting minutes. The vote and a meeting is coming up later this week. We're recording on the 2nd of February, and they'll vote on what is going to be called Neville Arena Team Support Improvements, a $9 million project. And it will include renovations, not expansion, renovations to the existing practice gym, scholarship lobby upgrades, and relocated enlarged team meeting office spaces within men's and women's basketball. So this is an investment across the board, not just for men's, mind you. One more quote, and then we can kind of discuss it a little bit. Due to the heavy use of the competition floor and existing practice gym, the project's originally proposed scope of work included the construction of an additional practice gymnasium and expanded support spaces. However, during the design process, the athletics department adjusted the scope to properly and reasonably address the original project goals without requiring the construction of an additional gym. The athletics director and coaches, all these are in agreement, all 3 teams, I would assume that means volleyball, are very supportive of it and are excited about the changes to the team spaces. So there you have it. This isn't something that was done in haste. This is something that obviously is with the support of all of the athletic people that will be utilizing that as their primary space. Remember, gymnastics has their own space. Who else utilizes that, Austin? Is that everybody?
Who else utilizes the gymnastics space?
I'm sorry, just the arena. So you have gymnastics, volleyball, and
men's and women's basketball.
Okay, so we got them all right there. So anyway, your thoughts, anything about all this?
Yeah, I saw a lot of the uproar too about the, we'll call it basketball only facility not happening. And I think that a lot of it, like a lot of things on social media, was passionate and overheated and uninformed and a little misguided. I think that we all want to say that Bruce should get whatever he wants. And I think that that's a totally fair thing to be able to say, and great principle. I don't think that it's necessarily always reason or possible to make happen. Bruce has done everything for Auburn men's basketball and more. However, with certain resources and the way they are, like location, like money, different things just aren't as unlimited as we would like them to be. I do think that renovating this space is good as long as it meets all the needs that were needed met when you thought about a basketball only facility. I don't question that there's issues with all of those teams sharing a space and who can practice when. Why I want to go get shots up. You can't right now. Practice being used for so and so practice, or courts being used for so and so practice. I think that this could allow an opportunity for there to be a space for each team, and it not be as annoying or as crowded as it is right now. I think that these student athletes, and I mean all of them, not just men's basketball, work incredibly hard and have a desire to be better at their craft each and every day. And at their current state, the arena might not be able to do that. A $9 million renovation is nothing to sniff at, and I think that this can do something that helps that. Certainly, I'm of the opinion that I think a basketball-only facility, just like Walsto's football facility, something that is a absolute mega ship, mothership, Star Wars type looking thing that gets all the national people talking, is what Auburn basketball needs in order to continue to maintain itself as a blue blood and an elite program.
Sure. At
this time, and with what's to come on college athletics revenue sharing and all the changes still to come, it might not be the most feasible option right now.
Right.
I don't think Bruce is super, I don't think he was super surprised, but I'm sure he's disappointed. We all want something better. We all want something when we want it, but I think there's a certain timeline to these things in order to help do it the right way, just like we talked with the football expansion. Yeah. So we'll see how it goes. I think that this can help for now. We'll see what the future looks like for the basketball program. I'll be honest, though, too. I think that what can help the basketball program is having people step up to donate and to help say, I want to earmark it for these things. I'm not saying that's not happening, but on the certain levels that other things are happening, maybe those are to come as Auburn continues to get more successful, puts more guys in the league. I think you can see an easy path where baseball has a lot of donations for it because of the success they've had in putting guys in the major leagues and things like that. Yep. Auburn's basketball is working towards that. So hopefully this is a start of things to come, and we'll get down the road.
Absolutely. I couldn't have said it better myself. I think it's important to remember that the goals were important, not exactly just getting what was originally envisioned. Goals matter, not necessarily the high blue sky dream. So that is being met. Everybody's on board with it. And hopefully they will, maybe this by the time you're watching or listening to this, the vote will be yes. And we can start seeing something, hearing about something, because I know that's what everybody wants, is what's the best for Auburn, for men's and women's basketball, for volleyball, for everything Auburn. And I know that's at the heart of the discussion. Just do yourself a favor. Make sure you inform before you make your comments in places like social media and stuff in the future. Anyway, that's all out there for you guys. Thanks for letting us spend some time talking about renovations. And that's going to do it all for episode 112. We covered a lot in this show, as we typically do. Thank you guys for sticking around with us to listen, to watch, and be a part of episode 112. If you want to keep up with me, do so on X at Kyle Loomis 24. Where can they find you?
Yeah, Austin G. Scott, X and Instagram. I was not at any games this week, so I'm glad I don't want to hear anybody talking. We still went 2-0, which if I'd been there, I mean, my record speaks for itself. But we'll see which ones I end up at next.
Well, chances are you will end up at something else and send us a picture in the Conquer Club. Just kind of
if you want to know where I'm at, that Conquer Club knows. So.
If you want to know if we got a good chance of being upset, just know if we'll know.
Yeah.
Thanks for hanging out with us for episode 112. Until we talk to you again. War Eagle.
War Eagle.